Simone writes, I have a situation where my son is being bullied by a few kids, but one kid specifically. I'm trying to get a restorative circle scheduled with his aftercare to involve the other child and his parents, but they are taking a long time with this. There's a racial dynamic that comes into play, I believe. I've been encountering a lot of both sidesing, of minimizing of matters. I've talked to the parents before numerous times, but no change is happening and active harm is being done. My son is waking up with nightmares and talking about working out to get bigger to beat the kid up. I'm trying to take the nonviolent path, but no one is defending my child or holding the other child accountable. Hi, Simone. Where would you like me to start?
Boy. So yeah, my mama bear.
Yeah, I'm so sorry this is happening. It sucks.
It does, and
Yeah.
it's ongoing. So my son is 5 years old. He's a kindergartner. This
Hmm.
has been happening for over a year, but other
Hmm.
parents are finally starting to see it, or maybe I don't know, but I don't know. It's just more at the surface, and people are. It's just being seen more.
Hmm.
For context, he's the only little black boy in this friend group, and he was the only little black boy in his class last year. And yeah, like it's really, really frustrating. The primary little boy who bullies him, he's the same age. He's been in the same class. They're in the same soccer, same aftercare, just same,
Hmm.
same. And
Hmm.
I've spoken to the parents because like, there'll be rough play. Like, and I've talked to their teacher. The teacher says there's no rough play allowed. The aftercare says there's no rough play allowed. And so I said, okay, for the sake of consistency, let's just say even because we usually go to the playground after aftercare for an hour or so for the kids to let off more steam.
Hmm.
And just no kicking, no hitting. It's because it
Hmm.
just always devolves. The primary little boy that's bullying him, he has a friend who's in the first grade, and they just gang up on my son. They'll be like, oh, you can't come to our birthday party, you can't do this, you can't do that. They'll just start creating these games around domination and rules, and it's just driving me crazy. And that what bothers me more is that usually there's a playground full of parents there, full of people who are seeing this stuff happen, but no one is saying anything.
Oh,
my
yeah.
there have been times where the shoe has been on the other foot and the kids are tattling to me every 5 minutes, or they're doing this and they're doing that. So I'm seeing instances of adultification where my son is being treated more harshly. There's a
Hmm.
lot more innocence and benefit of the doubt given to this other little boy. I just don't think that parents understand the social ramifications that are at play.
Yeah.
Last year, despite my son being above grade level for everything, his teacher had nothing positive to say about him. And mind you, she
Oh.
well, so like this, like anti-blackness, these biases, and we live in Baltimore City, and so I think
Hmm.
a lot of responsibility politics and like assimilationist type mentalities. But
Hmm.
for the time, the benefit
Hmm.
of the doubt and the goodness will be assigned to this little boy. Like,
Hmm.
a perfect example was at their like little promotion graduation ceremony at the end of last year. My son only got perfect attendance, and the other little boy got all these accolades besides saying some really violent thing. I'm going to cut your head off and chop it up and put it in a blend, like some
Oh my God.
to the teacher, but the teacher still sees him as an angel. And like I've just seen it over a year, over and over and over again. Yes, my son
Hmm.
is hyperactive. Yes, difficulty listening, like a lot of 5-year-olds, and he has his
Hmm. Hmm.
for which I am holding him accountable. This other little boy, there's just no accountability being had. I
Yeah.
saw another parent on the playground yesterday, and she was saying, oh, yeah, there really is an issue, and they're a little too hands off with their son. And a lot of us don't really like it, but no one's saying anything. This constant avoidance, and let's be the good, nice white people, and constant need for comfort. It's
Hmm.
driving me mad. And like I said, my son, he's having nightmares. He's
Hmm.
wanting vengeance. He's wanting
Hmm.
revenge,
Of course he is. Yeah.
everything. And so it's when things do come up. So I just needed to know a way of how to, because I'm drafting a really long script of what to say in this restorative circle. Yeah, I'm just trying to find a way to move forward. And I'm finding empathy for the little boy. But at the end of the day, I'm my son's only protector. I'm a single
Yeah.
parent.
First of all, I just feel a tremendous amount of heaviness around the complexity of everything that you are facing and alone. And I'm really sorry. Do you have allies? Do you have other people in this community who get it?
Somewhat, but their children like when they experience, I don't know, they're not dealing with exclusion, they're not dealing with all these other things, but within the community, no, there is another a Black parent, but they don't go to the same school, they're not in the same friend circle, nothing like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yep,
There
yep,
was an
yep,
instance
yep,
where the kids were jumping on my son, and like it was a little girl, and she like went and pushed him off,
yep,
and so, but they're not there regularly.
yep,
It seems most of the other parents are too conflict avoidant, quote
yep,
unquote, or whatever
yep,
else is going on, and it's not affecting their kids. Like
yep,
it's not, because the kids are
yep,
emboldened
yeah.
to do this with my son more.
So there's multiple levels of intervention that start with the personal and then move to the systemic. Because on the one hand, you are finding yourself in this awful, awful position of being around people who are not woken up to the complexities of what's happening. And it sounds like not enough of the conversation is about looking at all of the bias inherent in all of the different players and how they are perceiving and interpreting what's going on, and all of the inner work that is probably needed for some of these people to begin waking up to how they're perceiving. That's just huge right there. And your poor son is in this position where he's become like a lightning rod for one of these very common and very destructive racial dynamics. And you're sitting here as a protective mom. Good for you. He's so lucky to have you, trying to figure out how do you protect him in a way that invites everybody in this community to wake up, to care about and see what is actually happening. Am I capturing that accurately? How would you change how I said any of that?
Yes, yes, I need them to wake up and care, because there's
Yep.
like blindness.
Yep. Yep. So one of the things is the question of like, who do I need to have wake up and care first? Who are the people who have power in the system as it is, who have eyes on the ground, who are in a position to intervene? Who are those people? I would identify them first. And then I would probably have a conversation with those people about what you're talking to me about right now, which is I'd be really clear. I think there's racial bias going on here. And let me give you some examples of why I'm thinking that. And then I would make those examples as much as able, I would make them observational, behavioral. This happened. Here are the things that did happen. Here are the things that didn't happen. I want to compare it to this happening over here with a white child. Here are the things that did happen. Here are the things that didn't happen. Do you see the difference? I am wanting us to think about why this difference is here. I'd also get really, really clear on what I want. Sometimes people need a vision of what is needed instead, especially when they're asleep to something. When a child kicks my child, says, I'm going to chop off your head to my child, I would like the following response to happen. Here's what I think would feel more protective and more useful. And then I'd outline it for them. And then I would ask, why is that not happening? Help me understand what gets in the way of that being possible. But I would be, for effectiveness point of view, I would be coming with what needs to be happening. And I would be talking about what is missing and what is needed, so that what I want to do is create a vision, an image in these people's minds of what they're not thinking about, of what they're not doing. And I want to give them a way to begin implementing as quickly as possible the protective use of force in this situation around my child. And the added burden that you have, which it irritates the shit out of me, is you have to do all of the emotional labor to come in with all of the things that the school system should be doing and providing. And the burden is on you to have it be even more in these systems, even more articulate, even more thought out, even more proactive, when I'm guessing you have a lot of your own fear and helplessness and anger. And I'd be feeling a lot of rage and wanting to come in and read them the riot act. So there's a lot of what you are unfortunately needing to hold in this situation. And I just wish it wasn't so. And I wish I could infuse this situation with 5 protectors who come in for both of you. And where are they? And that's what we need to be creating, so that you're not the only one doing this by yourself with your son. And your son is not the only one on the playground trying to figure out how he can get stronger so that he can feel like he has to protect himself. How is this landing? Where could I be helpful? I wish I could be more helpful.
No, no, this is this is very helpful. I don't know, like to see resonance, like you remember mirroring back to me when I'm feeling what's going on, because so much of this, it's so subtle, it's so
Yep.
invisible.
Yep.
And yeah, it's true. Like I'm completely alone. And I do
Yep.
feel very helpless and powerless. Like there are
Mhm.
power, like the other parents of this little boy, like they paid for things for the playground, they kind of run the PTA in a way. It's just feeling of powerlessness.
It's systemic and it's unjust.
Yeah.
And people who are benefiting that system are not waking up to it as quickly as I wish they would.
Well, and then yeah, just this like, well, we're good. We're good white people. We're in Baltimore City. We have
Yeah.
proximity to
Yeah.
blackness. And like being
Yeah.
proximity to blackness is not nearly enough
Oh,
without doing the work.
that's right.
So yeah, yeah, like I said, I don't know, like if there's, yeah, I guess maybe figuring out what I want, what is needed.
General principles would be get very clear on what you want and give people behavioral images of what it looks like and sounds like. Make it about concrete things that need to happen. If this happens, I want this to happen. Can that happen? And what's getting in the way of that? So when this boy says to my son that he wants to chop off his head, and I don't know what you said, I forget the exact quote, but says this violent thing, I want us to have a plan for how my son gets protected by that, who is intervening, and how the boy saying it is then helped to express his feelings and his needs and his requests in a more pro-social way. The place of change needs to be on the person doing the violent thing, not on the person receiving the violent thing. And the person receiving the violent thing needs to be protected. And then the thing that needs to change needs to be the perpetrator, not the victim. And I would come in with a lot of questions around how are we using the protective use of force for, and if you need to use some of the language, for the well-being of all children. And in my particular case with my child, let me tell you where it's working and not working. The more you can bring in, if you're able, of course I know you mean well, of course you're good people, whatever is needed to you amplify the intention. I know you want to keep all children safe. Here's the place that I want to raise your awareness around that it's not working. And here are some ideas that I have about how it could work better. Something in that direction over and over and over again, and then documenting everything that is said, everything that is reported, and having a running total of the cumulative effect, and then being relentless and taking it back to the decision makers in the school system, and knowing that when we come in inviting more care and more solution, it's a quicker way to getting to the protective use of force than when we're coming in with very understandable wanting to read them the riot act approaches. What is wrong with you people? You all need to wake up, blah, blah, blah. Totally understandable. If that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do. But if you want to bypass that, if you're able to and get straight to solution focused, there's just less backlash to then deal with. It can be a very simple and strategic way. What are you thinking hearing that?
Yeah. I've been incredibly gentle with the parents and everything thus far. And they keep saying that they're talking to their sons, they're talking to them. But I think a lot of it goes down to values. Like it's a lot of, maybe I think part of it with them is like, well, kids will be kids and this and that.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's like just the deeper social ramifications, not to mention like just the active harm that's being my son. And like you mentioned, like he's wanting to defend himself because feeling like no one's defending him. Like I'm doing what I can and I'm talking and talking and talking. But at a certain point, like the old adage of, just really harder, like it's, I don't know, it's cropping up inside of him, no matter how much talking, peace, peace, peace.
Creating safety for your son is priority number one. Protecting your son is priority number one. Doing it in a way that gets the people who are in the school system to feel like allies instead of like they're part of the problem is just a more strategic way of doing it when that's possible. Not giving up on pressure on the system. Once your son, other parents saying that they're talking to their kids is not a good enough answer. I would want to know how, and I don't know what would work because I don't know the people exactly, but it would be something like, oh, wonderful. Can you tell me a little bit of what you're saying? And I'll let you know what I'm saying. And then let's see if we can get in alignment with what we're moving our children towards. I'm really looking for an environment where all of the boys can play together in whatever it is, like a collaborative and so whatever way, like describe it. Do you want that too? Let's keep checking in with one another because I know we're on the same side and I know we're wanting the same things and it may be sounding differently in our homes, and let's help one another. Like to the degree that I could get more information and more inclusion in all of that, I would be trying for that. But the bigger issue of educating the school community, getting more training for the teachers, having people really be in more conversations about implicit bias and systemic change and awareness of different people's positioning in those systems, I would be asking for that as well. And like we want change at all the levels, not only the level of the person being impacted and the person doing it, they are a symptom of it, but also the structures within which they are embedded. We need to be having those conversations about how policies and procedures and training and conversations are happening at all of those levels so that change is happening at multiple levels of the system. It's a huge task. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I had that idea as well. And then I'm like, oh, that's even more work. So it's like to recommend that they go through some type of like implicit bias training, or like they bring a
Yep.
in, but then I'm like, oh, well, I want to come
Yep.
focus, so I should have one to offer up, but and
Yeah.
then lots of research there as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate you. Yeah, like just echoing back to me, and yeah, just mirroring what I'm feeling and where I am. And then yeah, like just keeping things observational and behavioral.
Yep. And ask for what you want. Paint for them a picture of the world, the school community, the interactions that you want. People have a surprising lack of imagination. They keep recreating what they think is the status quo and thinking everybody should just settle for that and make it work. A lot of this work is providing them with a vision of a better way, a vision of a better community, a vision of a culture that is XYZ. It's about inspiring them to care about something more.
I guess I'll ask you that, Yvette, because I feel like for me, I have some imagination, but not in the moment
Yeah.
of how should this picture look.
Yeah. Here are the things I love about our school community, and here are the things, that I think we're really getting right. I'm looking for a school community where we really have a tremendous amount of emotional and psychological safety for all of our children so that they can really get on with the business of learning from a state of relaxed alertness. Do you want that too? Here are some of the places where I think it gets complicated because we as a school community are embedded in these wider systems of injustice. And I think it gets challenging for the parents, for the kids, as they're navigating racial dynamics, sexist dynamics. There's some sexism going on here as well. I can just hear in my mind the boys will be boys, the normalization of violence, like all of that is patriarchy. And I would be talking about what does it really mean for us to be educating our children for a society in which we know how to love one another, work with one another, relate with one another, have some of these hard conversations. We have such a beautiful opportunity here in Baltimore at the school to really have our parent community and our teachers play a role in taking on some of these difficult things and making real change in our school where all of our children can feel safe and included, and we can begin having some of these conversations in a restorative and pro-social way. Are you interested in that? I see such an opportunity here. I think it would benefit all of us. We have such good values that we speak to. We say we want belonging and inclusion. We say that we care. We have such a great opportunity here to learn how the hard work of living into that. I want to be a part of that change. This is a situation where I think we can see where it's challenging on the ground. Will you help me in making real change here, in having a new kind of conversation here, in really looking at psychological safety and emotional safety for all of our boys? Do we want to continue? Can we think a little bit about what we're normalizing for the boys in our school? I'd really like them to have the capacity to be full human beings and not feel like they're just getting thrown into a dog eat dog world. And even if they are, can we have kindergarten not be that? Something like this. How are any of those words landing?
It's landing perfectly. I love the fire behind it, but then also like the constant invitation,
Yeah.
the invitation to be better, to do better, to practice what we preach.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yes. And in none of that am I telling anybody that they're bad people, right?
No,
Yeah.
and they're not. They're
Yeah, of course. I'm not hearing that from you at all. I'm not hearing that from you at all.
I think sometimes the avoidance of I mean, even within myself, I have to
Yeah.
confront my own bias and
Yeah.
internalize depression and internalize this and that. So yeah, I think sometimes, like, including myself, we can get stagnant with that at times.
Yeah.
This and then yeah, like they're so young. They're just
Of
like
course.
little putty and my
Yeah.
baby.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for your question. These are really, really important questions for us to keep having. Yeah. And good luck with where it goes. I'd love to hear how it goes. Yeah. Anything else at this point?
No, thank you. Like nothing else I can think of, and I will
Okay.
do my best to report back. So yeah.
Okay, great. Wonderful.